Hey guys, it's Will from the Back 40, and I came on today to ask the question, what do you do when the president you voted for probably 3 times tells you you're too dumb to understand your own business? Because that's what happened recently when the president was asked about cattle ranchers pushing back against his policy to import more beef from Argentina. For those of you that don't really understand how President Trump has been using tariffs to damage the beef industry in this country, maybe you just haven't seen the videos I've done for the last couple of months. We talked about it here at the Back 40 before any other creators began discussing it. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to tell you about it again. First, President Trump raised the amount of tariffs on Brazilian beef coming to this country. Now, he did that for 2 reasons. Because his buddy Bolsonaro, who used to be the president of Brazil, is under indictment in that country for trying to steal an election. Sound familiar? And in order to punish the judges and the leadership in that country for allowing that to happen, he increased the tariffs on their beef. But what he also did is inadvertently increase the price of that boxed beef coming into the United States of America, helping to force up prices in the grocery store. Because the truth is, we import beef from many different countries to fill the insatiable appetite of beef here in this country. And now recently, President Trump undercut beef producers in this country by saying he was going to allow massive imports of beef from Argentina. He's going to do that in 2 ways. He's going to eliminate the quotas, meaning there'll be no limit on the amount of beef that can be imported into this country. And he's also giving them $40 billion, which is allowing them to prop up their economy. That's done a couple of different things. First, it's allowed them to sell massive amounts of soybeans to China without charging a sales tax. And secondly, it's allowing them to put infrastructure in place to increase agricultural production and exports to the United States. Now, as we've mentioned multiple times here at the Back 40, somewhere between 60 and 70% of farmers and ranchers voted for President Trump. Now, with these changes that he's trying to make, there's been significant pushback. You've had not only cattle raisers speaking out on social media to say that they think this new Argentina policy is wrong, but many of the national organizations that represent them have been doing so as well. So what did the president say in return when during an interview he was asked about this pushback from the cattlemen who support him? Well, as is often the case, his response was to call them stupid. President Donald Trump on Wednesday said U.S. cattle ranchers, quote, don't understand how they have benefited from his tariffs, adding that they have to get their prices down. Well, this obviously spells out a huge lack of understanding about how the cattle markets work. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, and we've mentioned this several times on the Back 40, prices are high right now primarily because herd sizes are at a 70-year low. The fact is the president doesn't understand that. If he thinks that cattle raisers in this country can just snap their fingers and bring prices down, he really is like a cow looking at a new gate when it comes to understanding not only ag policy in general, but cattle pricing as well. The president added insult to injury by going on to Truth Social and saying, quote, if it weren't for me, they would be doing just as bad as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. Well, I can tell you the cattle markets haven't been terrible for 20 years. Even in the early 2000s, when my family and I operated a 300 cow-calf operation, we had moments where prices were high, we had moments where prices were low. The other thing the president fails to acknowledge, and I've done videos on this before, and I've yet to have a single person push back to prove me wrong, is that the majority of the increase in beef in this country in terms of price on the hoof came under the Biden administration. Now, we can argue all day long whether or not the Biden administration or the Trump administration had anything at all to do with increased beef prices, or if it was simply demand compared to the fact that we're at a 70-year low in terms of herd sizes. But the truth of the matter is, we haven't been doing terrible for the past 20 years. We just have all-time high prices now, based on lack of inventory and based on incredible American consumer demand. But this is the bottom line, fellow farmers. How long are we going to give him a pass? How long are we going to allow him and his Secretary of Agriculture, who neither have an understanding at all about agricultural policy, how it works, and what the impacts are on the American family farm and ranch, how long are we going to give him a pass? How long is it going to be until you stand up and join the rest of us to push back against these policies that are harming rural America? Is it not bad enough that they've cut the Medicaid that's going to cost us thousands of rural hospitals? and clinics? Is it not bad enough that they're pushing private school voucher schemes that are robbing money away from rural schools, causing them to go to 4-day weeks, use old textbooks, and lose teachers at an alarming rate? On top of that, do they have to blame their failed economic trade policies that have cost us over 30% of our foreign agricultural markets on you, the farmer? You're to blame. That's what the president said. You don't understand your business. You don't appreciate him enough for getting you the gains in beef prices, which, by the way, he wasn't the only president responsible for helping get. And finally, he's calling you stupid. I don't know. I don't know what other buttons this president could push for you to understand that he's not good for farming and ranching, and he's not good for rural America in general. I'm hoping you'll follow my advice. We're not asking you to admit you were wrong. We're just asking you to admit you were lied to. And if you can do that, come join us at the Back 40, where we're working to elect elected officials, regardless of their party, that support good rural policy, better health care, better education, and better rural economics. If you're ready, we're ready to have you. Have a great day, everybody.